What's good, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael. I'm a little stuffy today, but today's topic is about balling on a budget, how to eat healthy and get in shape. This conversation took place between two of my friends and myself, Craig, who is a lifestyle coach, Eric, who is a personal trainer, and myself, a mechanical engineer within the industry. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy the video. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I'll be sure to respond. Peace, elite.
All right. You guys, you fellas ready to get into it or what?
Well, I'm gonna mute myself real quick just because I don't want all this background noise. But
All right.
like Eric starts off.
Ooh, balling on a budget. We talked about like one barrier that most people cite or say when they are talking about living a healthier lifestyle is that it's too expensive. And I actually have some interesting numbers um, to represent that later on. But I think first it would to be important to give a definition to what a healthy lifestyle is. Um, so I have a definition from the World Health Organization, and then I kind of want to hear what you guys think your definition would be. So the World Health Organization defines a healthy lifestyle as, quote, a way of living that lowers the risk of being seriously ill or dying early. Mike, what do you think about that? Do you agree with that? Do you have a different definition that you would use for a healthy lifestyle?
I mean, I agree. But we're hyper focused on more than just a healthy lifestyle, right? We're focused on a healthy eating lifestyle for this talk.
Well, I would say I thought we were just going to cover a healthy lifestyle in general. I mean, definitely eating healthy is like a big part of it, but I think um a healthy lifestyle is more than just eating healthy.
I agree. I just misunderstood the topic for this week, but I have plenty on the nutrition side.
Okay, good. That's that's where most of the I believe that's where most people have the biggest issue anyways.
I think there's definitely a strong limitation, I guess, or a perceived limitation when it comes to the nutrition. But I actually have a lot of not necessarily research-based stuff, but just perspectives on health and fitness outside of the nutrition space. Because I think a lot of people in low income areas, they might not have access to gyms. They might not have access to, things like that are perceived to be critical or perceived to be like, you can't have a healthy lifestyle without them. And that's not true.
Guys, it sounds like we're gonna have a well-rounded discussion today. Mike with the nutrition, Craig with the fitness, and then I have a little bit of both. This is gonna be a good talk. So I was thinking of like a definition. I don't know, Mike, do you have like a definition that you could possibly share? How is that not pass interference? Thank you. Do you have a definition that you would have that would be different from what the World Health Organization defines as a healthy lifestyle?
No, I mean, I agree with the definition. The only other thing that I would say is, and I don't necessarily know how to word it because it's something I'm thinking of on the spot, but how to go day to day without any major inconveniences, right? Like you can have a major inconvenience that's not considered a severe illness. Something like I don't know, if you can't lunge, for example, or like say bend over if you drop something, you know what I mean? So I would say a healthy lifestyle not only includes all the things that you mentioned, but also allowing somebody to go about their day without any major compromise in how they, function.
Yeah, so there's so when I was thinking about, I agree with you, first of all. And as I was thinking about, what I would define a healthy lifestyle as, I came up with something that sounds a little bit like this. A healthy lifestyle consists of a regular or frequent engagement in activities that involve varied movement while maintaining an energy balanced diet. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think from a physical health standpoint, it's really well rounded.
Energy balance to say that they have to be in maintenance.
I said so. My thinking behind me putting that in there was yes. Around maintenance. The reason I put that in there is because we all know that if you overconsume, you're going to be putting yourself at a higher risk of being overweight. And when you are overweight, we all know that again will further increase your risk of certain chronic diseases, possibly type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, that kind of thing, which would take us back to what the World Health Organization defines as a healthy lifestyle, lowering the risk of being seriously ill or dying early. So that's why I put that in there. I mean, would you guys agree that having an energy balanced diet is an important part of living a healthy lifestyle, or no?
Mike, you had the initial question on maintenance. I'm curious to see what you think. I have a comment too, but I want to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think it needs to be energy balanced. I would say maybe like energy focused or like energy specific. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because if an individual is already severely overweight or severely underweight, their maintenance is not going to be what it should be if they were at a healthy weight. So that's my only objection to that. Not objection, but like,
Can you say that again?
yeah. So you said energy balanced, which implies maintenance for the individual where they're at currently. But if somebody is severely overweight or severely underweight, their maintenance energy that they have to intake and spend is different than what it would be at a healthy body weight. Mm-hmm. So I said my only revision would be like something that says energy focused or energy like it's like goal oriented, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that in in a perfect world, Eric, being at maintenance at a healthy body weight is ideal, right? Like our hormones are functioning at their best, our appetite and everything is good. But, you know, unfortunately within this world, that is not the majority, essentially. And so a lot of people need to or are considering losing weight in order to get to a healthy body weight. And there are several others that are considering gaining weight in order to get to a healthy body weight. And that's a whole nother conversation when we get into, you know, a global community health conversation, like the lowest of the low income and how they are starving for food, right? And so they need to go on a bulk essentially just for their health, right? So yeah, I think that energy focused terminology is really good.
I like it.
Cool. So I like the definition. What is happening?
Space now.
That background, so is that background going to help the Bengals?
I hope so. So it sounds like from what we just talked about, we both, or all three of us, we all agree that there would be two broad categories related to a healthy lifestyle. The first being movement, some form of movement or activity, and then the second being nutrition.
What about like life, like relationships and environment?
Right. That is another big aspect. And I'm glad you brought that up because there's a point that I have later. I alluded to the information I have for later. But yeah, I'm taking notes as we do this, so I'm gonna add that in there.
I'd argue and have always argued and will continue to argue for the rest of my life, unless something dramatic changes, that relationships are the most important factor to your health, hands down. Like your environment, yes, I think as a subcategory of that, if you were to get more specific, your relationships impact every other aspect that we can mention about our health. Like how you eat, how you work out, how you sleep, how you think, how you how you spend your time. Literally is all impacted by our relationship.
Yep, I agree. I've seen it many, many times on the internet. It says the most important decision you'll ever make in your entire life is who you end up marrying. Or spending the rest of your life with if you don't end up marrying. You know what I mean? But yeah.
And also that old saying, you are whoever you spend your most time with, like that's who you'll most be like. That's not how it's always worded, but that's it saying.
No, that's so real. And I feel like we can all individually probably think of at least one person, if not multiple, who we saw was living a healthy lifestyle, whether it was friends in college or whatever, family members. They were living a healthy lifestyle and then they got a girlfriend or they got, some job where the people they were working with, the coworkers, were just not focused on health. And you could see them kind of decline in their health, or their habits started to go away that they once had before. I can think of like 3 people just off rip, and it's crazy. I mean, myself included at times, for sure, have done it. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I that is crazy because I think everybody knows that adage or that, I don't know, that saying, yet are people just blind to it, or do they think it just doesn't apply to them? Where's the disconnect there?
Yeah, I feel like with any piece of advice or any maybe catchphrase, if you want to call it that, we as human beings just feel that we are exempt to sometimes. Like when we say like the hardest piece of advice is to take is the one that we give ourselves. I feel like that's so true because we can tell other people sound advice and probably give guidance, and that very same thing that we told them, it's tough for us to stay disciplined on, tough for us to do. And maybe it's a prideful thing, like we have a cockiness or pride about us. It's like, I'll be all right. When in reality, we are just humans, just like everybody else. But I'm not exactly sure what the neuroscience or psychology is behind it, but it's very real.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy. What's that?
I just said that's a pretty cat.
She's running. But a guy that I follow, he always talks about how most of the time people already know what they need to do. Like to your point, they already know what they need to do, but it's just a matter of implementing it. So the strategy that he has is whenever he's stuck or unsatisfied or in some sort of situation where he doesn't want to be, he essentially has a conversation with himself, but he pretends that the other person is himself that's 80 years old. And so he has a dialogue between him and his older self. And he's kind of like coaching, mentoring himself, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is that you already know what you need to do. You just, I don't even know where I'm trying to go with this, but like kind of, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this.
No, I feel you though, because it's like you have to have almost an outer body experience at certain points to actually follow your own advice. And one thing that my pastor said a few months ago, and one of the messages he was giving was really impactful with me. I've remembered it since. He was talking about wisdom, and he said, wisdom is this thing that is hard to define. It's something that everyone wants, but we are constantly chasing after it, but not really sure how to get it, aside from like spending more time on this earth, right? We're having conversations, but it's like, to give a contrast, like if I work this much, I'm going to make this amount of money. And that's like a very clear transaction. Whereas wisdom, it's like, I'll probably get more wise. I'm not sure, right? And so he was talking about how to gain wisdom and how to know you're gaining wisdom. And he was saying it's a choice. And every single decision that you make you have a choice between choosing wisdom and choosing stupidity, essentially. And the more that you practice choosing wisdom, the more wise you become. And he's like, it comes all the way down into the small choices of like going to bed. He's like, you could either stay up for an extra hour and watch Netflix, or you could get to bed on time, get up and get your workout in or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like, is staying up for an extra hour going to end your life like other decisions might? No. But if you choose that wise decision, then you strengthen your wisdom muscle, quote unquote, and it becomes easier to make wise decisions, and it becomes easier to think of wise options later on. And I feel like getting into that outer body experience is that way of practicing wisdom and thinking of the wise options. It's like, it's a muscle. You gotta practice it over and over and over again.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. That same guy that I was referring to earlier, he has kind of like a short speech or whatever you want to call it, like a little video snippet where he essentially says that like being patient is not somebody who never feels impatient. Being patient is somebody who practices being patient. And he brings it further, and he's like, if you wanted to create a human who is very patient, you would probably put them in situations where they don't feel patient. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that translates to other characteristics as well. Like a common one you guys have probably heard is like, courage is not the absence of fear, but action in place of fear. Right. So same concept.
Yeah. And it's so good because we're kind of getting off the topic that we started, but it's such a good topic because it is almost counterintuitive. It's like we ask for, or we wish we were more patient. And then we get into situations where we're in a fight with our significant other, or we, get cut off in line or whatever. And you have a choice to be patient, and you either practice that or you don't. That's as simple as that. I'm about to run inside real quick and give this food that I just picked up. So I'm still here. I'll be on mute. So.
Okay. Eric,
Mike,
you shut off the game and dial in for the next 40 minutes.
I'm dialed in.
So the TV's off.
Well, TV's not off, but I'm dialed in.
Yeah.
Dude, look at my screen right now, dude. Do you see TV close to me? I'm so far away from the TVs, it's crazy.
Reel it back in for us. Back to the topic.
I have the perfect segue.
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
Because I'm locked in. All right, here we go. So, I found like there's a good chunk of like just quick kind of stats, I guess. I found this on 2 separate websites, so I believe that there's some validity to these points. So this is a survey from people.com. So there's a bunch of different points from the same article, but 6 in 10 Americans believe that a healthy lifestyle is too expensive. 59% of people out of a pool of 2005 people see that the cost of health and wellness being the biggest barrier to a healthy lifestyle. 68% of those who live in cities or urban areas note the cost of staying healthy to be too high. And then this is kind of that big point that we hit on in terms of relationships. A study done by One Poll asked their respondents about the biggest priorities when it comes to health and wellness, and 65% said mental health, which we've related to relationships and how important that is to staying positive, and a lot of other factors as well. And then one last one here, only 22% of those people knew of a place nearby that sold affordable, high quality produce.
So the first one that I kind of want to respond to is the statistic where people think it's too high. That was
6 in 10 Americans.
Yeah, repeat that phrase because the terminology stood out to me where it said too high.
6 in 10 Americans believe that a healthy lifestyle is too expensive.
To me, saying that a healthy lifestyle is expensive and I might be reading into this too much, but saying that a healthy lifestyle is expensive and saying that a healthy lifestyle is too expensive, to me, is communicating two separate things. Too expensive is communicating that the value they're giving this healthy lifestyle and how it will benefit them is less than the cost value, which is essentially telling me that they're not valuing the healthy lifestyle as much as they should be. Because them saying that it's expensive is communicating a different thing, which is actually how they're going about it.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I have a point down here, and this is an idea that I've thought on quite a few times before, and it's essentially, you kind of have to pick. You kind of have to pick the area in which you sacrifice. So, like, to your point, people who say it's too expensive, they don't see the value. They're like, "Here's my hard-earned money," and I think that keeping this hard-earned money is more important than taking from this pile and putting it towards a healthy lifestyle. But when they do that, they're sacrificing the healthy lifestyle so that they can keep this money. And what that leads to is probably, in most cases, health complications down the road, other issues being brought up. And then the flip side of that is, we could sacrifice this money, our time, our energy towards a healthy lifestyle. But the payoff is so much higher, in my opinion.
In your opinion, or are you speaking as if you were them?
I'm saying, in my opinion,
it's harder to do something than to not. Is that what you're saying?
Huh?
You're saying it's harder to do something being enacting a healthy lifestyle, than it is to not do anything. It's harder to do something than not to do something in this specific scenario. It's easier for people to continue on with their shitty lifestyle than it is for them to change their lifestyle and actually be healthy.
Yes, but we're talking about because we're talking about how to make this lifestyle affordable to most people, and most people are like, it's too expensive. What I'm saying is, like, and it doesn't. First of all, it doesn't have to be. Second of all, I believe that choosing to live a healthy lifestyle is definitely worth it, because you brought up the value concept, right? People don't value, or they don't see enough value in the healthy lifestyle. But what I'm saying is, 10 out of 10 times, I would sacrifice some money from my pile, my hard-earned dollars, to live a healthy lifestyle. Because I believe in what I hope most people will eventually realize is that it's way, like, I feel like there's no comparison between, like, it's way better to live a healthy lifestyle than not.
The payoff is disproportional for sure, but it comes, like, delayed gratification is a large part of it. And
Right.
that you have to practice restraint for that. And most people don't have that.
Right.
It's true.
I think that's one of the big things. I mean, we're all within the fitness industry in some way, shape, or form, whether it's behind the scenes building the actual equipment or coaching individuals. And so we have a service that is quite frankly hard to sell. For years, Mike, maybe not as much, but still to an extent, because you're selling them something that at the end of the day they have to put to work, you know?
Mhm.
And so Eric, you and I, we're selling something that in the immediate is not, they're not going to enjoy it in the way that they would something else that they buy. You know,
Mhm.
like you buy a car, immediate gratification. You're super excited, like you get to drive that off the lot. It feels great. You buy a 3-month personal training program, you're sweating, you're suffering, you're like, why am I not seeing progress for the first 2 or 3 weeks? It's like, what the heck? Same thing with a squat rack or an adjustable bench. It's like, well, now I actually have to go use this thing. It can't just sit in my basement, you know?
Mhm.
And so that immediate gratification is not there, which makes convincing people that there's a value to health and fitness somewhat difficult. It does. But in the long run, I could not agree more that there's definitely measurable aspects to it, but there is a immeasurable value to having your health. And if you don't have that, you don't have much. Eric, it's really cool that you're disappearing in this space right now.
I'm not trying to. I'm trying to get comfortable. I can't find a comfortable position.
That's okay. It was kind of cool. Um, but I missed the very beginning of what I don't know if it was a stat or something like that that you had said, Eric. What was it?
So it's kind of like a list of different stats. Did you hear any of them?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna repeat all of them. So 6 in 10 Americans believe that a healthy lifestyle is too expensive. 59% of people out of a pool of 2005 see the cost of health and wellness being the biggest barrier to a healthy lifestyle. 68% of those who live in cities or urban areas note that the cost of living is too high, or the cost of staying healthy is too high, sorry. And then a study done by One Poll asked their respondents about the biggest priorities when it comes to health and wellness, and 65% said mental health, which I related back to to us bringing up relationships and how important that is.
Yeah, that's huge. Those are really, really good too.
Mhm.
And I popped back in when Mike, you were talking about the just breaking down the too expensive and really dialing in on that aspect. And I agree with you to an extent in the fact that if they feel that they have to put the two in there, you know, there's probably a lack of perceived value that they have. There may be a group of people out there who really, really want to do it and they do see the value in it, but what they've seen or what society has shown them, they're like, yeah, I can't afford that. Like I can't afford to live what I think is a healthy lifestyle because I've only seen like these 1 or 2 pathways to do it. So it's too expensive for me. Even though I want it, it's too expensive for me because I only know this one route. Right. Like if the only car we know is a Ferrari, they're like, well, cars are too expensive for me because the only car I know is a Ferrari, right?
Yep.
And so I think a lot of those stats, specifically that one, made me think of education. And if we can educate people on how to live a healthy lifestyle that is sustainable and practical for them, I think a lot of that too goes away, right? That the perceived value, I don't know if it necessarily impacts the perceived value, but it definitely impacts the perceived confidence that they'd have in acting on the getting to a healthy lifestyle. So I feel like educating is one of the biggest things that we can do to try and just enhance the amount of people who have access and then actually utilize the access to health and fitness resources.
Absolutely. I think education is a huge, huge piece, um, especially today where you can log on to any device and see, like, you could see points being made for literally anything. Like you could support eating vegetables, and you could find support for not eating vegetables, and people are like, are vegetables good for you? Well, you have this whole group saying that they are, a whole group saying you shouldn't eat them at all, and it builds a lot of confusion. And then that confusion ends up being another barrier as to why nobody starts in the first place, because they're so confused about what the heck that they should believe in, or whatever. And
Yeah.
I also think a lot of people, when they think of living a healthy lifestyle, their mind first goes to, shoot, I have to get in shape. And what does that look like for most people? Hours and hours of running, or hours and hours of lifting heavy weights. But it could be so much more. It could be so much more simplistic than that. Like you could, someone who's like never exercised ever, walking could be a great first step
Right.
into eventually getting to a healthier lifestyle. And that kind of goes back to the point of delayed gratification. Like, eventually, I think personally, weight training, resistance training is one of the more beneficial tools that you can utilize and put into place when building a healthy lifestyle. But you have to work your way up there. So you have to take the time to build yourself up to that point. But the two pieces. So, I mean, to me, relationships are like, bring it back to the topic of balling on a budget, right? Relationships, us being a big part that we had mentioned, relationships are always free, right? In most cases, you don't have to buy your friends. If you have a good group of people around, you don't have to like pay them to stick around. You know what I mean? It does take effort to go out and build relationships. So if you don't have a good circle around you already, it will take effort to get uncomfortable and search for those relationships. But in terms of the activity component of a healthy lifestyle, like I said, walking, that's free. You can walk anywhere. And there's a lot of parks that you could go to. They've got like maybe like a bar, or a lot of people use tree branches, or whatever they can find really to support the activity side of things. I don't know,
Yeah.
what do you guys think?
Mike, what'd you think?
Oh man, my mind was going a million miles per hour, right? Try to
I
keep,
could see,
yeah, I'll try to keep it like somewhat focused, which is kind of going back to what you had said earlier. Like, I 100% agree with what you're saying, both of you. And I don't want to take anything away from that, because I do agree with it. But me personally, I am very skeptical about whether they actually think that cost is a barrier, or whether they're just using that as a scapegoat answer. If I'm taking a survey and I say, what is the reason why you don't, implement a healthy lifestyle? And there's choices, I feel like most people are going to lean towards cost. Like you said, education is a large component to it. And I think it was Eric who said that it can be very, very simple, but we idolize people who are obsessive in whatever discipline that we want to get in. And so it's kind of like you said with the Ferrari, Craig, it's like you're taking an extreme example of something, and then you're like, that's what I got to do in order to get even like a little bit of it, right? Like, which is not true.
yeah. Yeah, man. That makes perfect sense. Sorry if I'm just trying to get my voice back for like 2 weeks now. But that makes perfect sense. And it's tough. I try to lean towards the side of, empathy, of like, all right, this person really doesn't know what they need to do. And if they did know, then they would be doing it. In reality, I know that's not true. And I mean, in reality, I know that people make excuses. The reason behind those excuses may be very valid. Like, I'm scared, I'm intimidated, whatever it is. And like, we can deal with those.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to get to the truth, of why you're making these excuses. But when it comes to the education piece, yeah, I do think that it is pivotal, and there are so many simple ways to be able to do it. And that's what we should be educating. I think a lot of education, like you said, is surrounded around the obsessive uh, things. The obsessive. Sorry, I'm on a phone call. The obsessive people, the obsessive researchers, the Jack Nipperts, who is great, puts out great stuff. The Lane Nortons, whoever you want to say. That's where people start their education or get their education, and then they're educating themselves, but they're educating themselves in this area that is not feasible for them right now.
Mhm.
And so, start your education journey. If you're a second grader trying to get a master's degree, you're gonna fail. You know,
Yeah.
it's gonna work.
Okay, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that there is a misunderstanding, or perhaps just not any awareness about how to actually have an affordable, healthy lifestyle. So let's start talking more about dollars. Let's make this tangible and actionable for the person who wants to start. Eric?
Well, I think going back to what I had said earlier about, tangible dollars, I had a couple points being the first, relationships are free. You don't have to pay people to be your friend.
But sorry to interject, but you do have to pay to have a similar lifestyle in order to maintain those friends. My point is,
explain that.
okay, let's say a lot of my friends go out and party, right? If I go out and party with my friends, then I'm not going to be spending any time with them, which means over time, gradually, we're not going to become friends because I'm not spending any time with them. So there is a hidden cost, which is having a
So
similar lifestyle that your friends.
okay, so to that point, if you have friends that always go out and party,
Mhm.
are they going to places where you have to pay to get in, or are they just going to a bar?
Let's say you don't have to pay to get into the bar, but are you really going to go to the bar every night and not order a drink, an alcoholic beverage?
I know,
That's
I
like
know,
walking through the Garden of Eden and like looking at the apples every day. Like,
I know several people who do that.
okay, good for them. I think that is far and few between. I don't personally know anybody who has that sort of willpower to exercise that on a daily basis. Not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying, from my perspective, that doesn't seem smart to put yourself in that situation to fail.
You're assuming that person will like.
I am.
I don't know. I don't know. I have trouble with that concept.
Craig?
So I was that person who would go out to parties and go out to bars, and I didn't want to drink for multiple reasons, but one of them being the cost. I was like, I am not buying this nasty alcohol. So I just didn't, and I would go out, but I was not going out every single night. And I would like to say that, if I did go out every single night, I would still keep that discipline. Mm-hmm. But it would definitely be harder. It would most definitely be harder. So do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think it is very, very difficult? And most people probably wouldn't do it? Yes, I agree that most people probably wouldn't do it. Eric, I fully believe, because I was one of those people, that you know people and may have been that person who did it or can do it. But Mike, I think that I feel like we just hit on what I was about to say. Like, yes, you need to maintain a certain level of, what's the word? Similarity, I guess, to your friends, or spend time with them, right? Mm-hmm. We also have a choice in who we spend time with, and if you're very, very, and this may sound callous, but if you're very, very committed to a certain goal and the people around you are doing things that are not conducive to your goal, they could be great people otherwise, but if they aren't willing to sacrifice some time, be like, hey, instead of going out to the bar every night, we'll stay in for 2 nights a week in order to hang with you, right? And then maybe you go out to the bar with them one night a week, and there's a compromise there. If your friends aren't willing to do that, maybe we need other friends.
Yep.
I agree.
And doesn't this tie into the idea that you become, you know, similar to the people you spend the most time with?
Mm-hmm.
So like you can resist, and people do resist, you know, engaging in all of the activities and all of the behaviors of their friends, but to a certain extent, they are still rubbing off on you. So
Okay.
even if you aren't buying alcohol, you still are sacrificing your sleep.
Yeah.
Going out at night, you know what I mean? But okay, Eric, go back in, because I don't want to feel like I'm you know, trying to argue with you. Continue, please.
I mean, you bring up a good point, but I would challenge the idea that you have to, I guess, partake in the same things that those around you are in order to be friends with them.
It
I would
does.
challenge that idea.
It doesn't have to be. I'm not saying it has to be like me and you do the exact same thing. Craig and I do the exact same thing, but there has to be some sort of shared activity or
Well, yeah, absolutely.
experience in order to keep that connection.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that fact. But going further, so the other aspects being activity, like physical activity, and also healthy eating. Healthy eating probably is one of the bigger ones, but we talked about a couple of things, being the biggest being education. Education on that topic to me is like the most important. But like I mentioned earlier, exercise doesn't have to be spending tons of money at a commercial gym or health club to get access to polished equipment or whatever. Like you can use your body weight at home, do push-ups, sit-ups. You can walk around your neighborhood. You can go to parks that are absolutely free, and there's typically like a playground, and a playground might seem pretty like, I don't know, like you could do a lot with a playground. You know what I mean? Like I know
Yeah.
it's meant for kids, but you could do a lot of physical activity on a playground.
Yeah.
So like the activity portion, really, I mean, that's another area in which I think you can definitely leverage a lot of different things to keep it free, 100%. Or at the very least, you could take like $10, $15, buy a set of resistance bands off of Amazon or something, or from like a store. And now you have not just body weight, but you have additional resistance that you can work against to challenge your body and build up your body and all that kind of stuff. But I think the biggest thing, which we probably should have spent most of our time on, is the food side of things, nutrition. And I think it was Mike, you said that you have a lot of points on nutrition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so before we transition to that, kind of on the exercise side, besides working out at home, let's say somebody says, you know, I want to try to work out at the gym. An easy thing you can do is call up the gym and say, hey, I'm new to the area. Doesn't matter whether it's true or not. Okay, if you don't want to lie though, just say like, I'm interested in, you know, lifting. I don't know a ton. Do you offer a free trial? And I think that based on my experience from like when I go on vacation and things like that, a lot of these gyms want the business. And so they, even if they don't have anything formal in place, they'll give you 3 days, they'll give you 7 days, they'll give you some sort of thing. Maybe it's just a day where you can try out the gym for free. Now, the caveat to this is that a lot of the gyms actually require you to show that you have a state ID, like, you know, in the state, that you're not just like visiting on vacation. So it doesn't work 100% for me on vacation, but the idea is there that like, if you want to at least get into it or at least flirt with the idea, you can. But on the nutrition side, I have a whole bunch of notes on my phone. That's why I'm going to start looking down. And one of the first notes I wrote was Costco. Okay, so Costco is a paid membership, but not everything at Costco is cheaper, but there are a lot of things that are cheaper, especially considering the fact that you buy bulk. But if you're just buying for one or two and not an entire family, you need to make sure that you're strategically buying things that aren't perishable or that won't, expire in a week. So like fresh fruit, for example, if you buy a crap ton of that, yeah, it's a good deal as far as like per ounce, but you're not going to be able to eat it all. So that's not smart. Okay, my computer is almost dead, but if you drive a decent amount, Costco gas alone, I feel, will pay for the lowest Costco membership card. So here in Colorado, I don't know how it is in Ohio, but here in Colorado, in order to pay for unleaded gas, it is approximately $3.50 a gallon.
Oh my gosh.
But at Costco, it's $2.20 a gallon.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference.
So that in combination with buying non-perishable foods in bulk.
You said 220, not 320?
No, $2.20.
That's crazy. Dude, I gotta get a Costco membership like yesterday.
Yeah. And what'd you say, Dana? What is it? Where is that at? Okay, Dana has a King Supers, which is equivalent to Kroger membership, and she pays $3.20. So there you go. That doesn't even cost any money. Oh, $2.90, right? And that doesn't even cost any money for that membership.
Look at that.
So there are ways to save. And that is the first one that I had listed. Any thoughts on that?
I have an overarching thought about that point, but I feel like it's gonna connect to the other points you're about to make too. So I'll just wait. But
Okay.
I really, and Sarah and I just got a Costco membership, so
Yeah.
I'm definitely about to manage that gas.
Craig's about to save some gas money.
If you want to save money even more, go on your parents' Costco card. That's what I'm on my mom, so I don't even pay for it.
So do they look at the little picture thing that they do?
Yeah, but you can have a second user on the account.
Oh,
So they take your picture and then you get a separate card. Like, for example, when I lived with Eric in Columbus, he threw me on his Costco card. So I was mooching off of him back then.
You were Eric, genius.
But it was so I got that Costco membership, and it was like, I think it was like 20. How far of a drive was that, Mike, from my place?
Oh, I have no idea.
It had been like 20
That's one of
minutes.
the things that I wrote is like, if you drive a decent bit and there's a Costco like along the way of your daily commute, then it's almost a no-brainer because you're not going out of your way.
Yeah, but again, you did say if you're buying for just one or two people, it probably wouldn't be the best idea because you wouldn't be buying enough. Especially, and you got to think like,
But
Craig, I don't know how you eat, but Mike and I, we eat a lot of food. So like it would make sense for us to probably buy both, but for the majority of people, it probably wouldn't.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I definitely eat a lot, and then obviously I'm buying groceries for two. So we shop in bulk, but I agree with your point. Most people are under eating. But then two, because they're under eating, all the food would go to waste if they bought in bulk. So
yeah, that's why like one of the things they wrote down is like from Costco, frozen pizza if you're bulking, right? Like pizza, obviously not the healthiest choice, but if you're trying to put on some body weight, frozen pizza, great deal at Costco. Steak, another great deal. Now, steak in general is pretty expensive, and that's one of the points I made later on, which is you can substitute foods, right? Like in order to bulk, you don't need to be eating steak every day like Eric. So,
well, it's not. I don't eat steak anymore. It's ground beef because ground beef is way less expensive.
Point right there.
Yep.
But back to that frozen pizza idea. I had two of them the other night, two in the same night, back to back. I just freaking one came out of the oven, cut it up, ate it, threw the other one in, cut it up, and ate it. It was a barbecue chicken pizza from California Kitchen. That was like on a scale of 10, I'd probably say like 7.5 or 8. It was pretty freaking good. The other one was Screamin' Sicilian, extra thin and crispy pepperoni and sausage. That was like probably a 5 out of 10. It was not that good.
Bro, how much did you get paid for this ad?
Not enough.
I don't know. Clearly, he said
But
screaming.
this brings up a good point, which is the healthy lifestyle is not binary. It's not you have a healthy lifestyle or you don't have a healthy lifestyle, but there is some variation in that, right?
Yeah, that's such a great point, dude. I think that we live in a world of absolutes way too often.
Mm.
And it's like either I'm healthy or I'm not. And it's like, no, that's not true. Like just because you had a pizza doesn't mean you're not healthy, you know? Now, I would not recommend, unless you're Eric Bauer, to eat 2 pizzas in one night. But there's definitely a spectrum. What's up, Eric?
I was gonna say the big this is pretty common, but a lot of people quote the 80-20 rule, which I think goes directly into what we're talking about. If 80% either of what you do or what you eat is healthy, and then the other 20% isn't, you can still work towards a goal, and you're not really going to throw yourself too far off.
Right.
Now, with that being said, I definitely think that you have to get to a pretty stable baseline before you implement that 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Because it is much easier. Well, it's hard in general to live a healthy lifestyle, but it's so much easier to stick to that 80-20 and give yourself even more flexibility when you're at a pretty stable baseline.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I wanted to say on that.
Yeah, no, I like that. Mike, did you have more cost shaving recommendations?
I have a lot more bullet points if we want to go through that.
Give me some. I'm about to put some into action.
Okay. So the next one I wrote down was go into the grocery store with a plan. So I'm currently under the impression that most people go to the grocery store because they need food and they just wing it. And so their bill is very variable, which makes it very difficult to, track how much you're actually eating in it and how much you actually need. And so a lot more food will end up expiring. And also, when you don't go in with a plan, maybe you're walking through an aisle and you're like, oh, that looks good. And so you grab that and now you're spending more money and making unhealthy choices all in one.
Real quick, I want to add something to that. A plan, huge, important. Also, don't go to the store hungry. Don't eat like a small snack or something before you go, because that's gotten me quite a few times. I'm like, those donuts look pretty good right now. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. That's a good one. I really like that. What else you got, Mike?
So another one I have is eat out less. So I am actually amazed how many people I know, coworkers, and also friends when I was in college, that eat out and they are not in my opinion, everybody can spend the money, however they want, they earned it. But they are eating out so much that you would have thought they were making $200,000 a year. Not everybody has to be similar in the way that I am, but I literally eat out maybe once a month. Yeah. And everything else I cook. And the once a month is not even because I have the desire to, per se, because I'm so frugal with my money. It's because, a friend is flying into town and I'm sure he wants to experience a new restaurant or something like that. So I'm kind of trying to pitch him on the experience. Eric.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that one, though. I think, seasons where I've gotten really busy. I know for sure when we were planning for our wedding, we were at the same time moving into a new apartment and had just gotten back from a missions trip to Guatemala, all within like 2 months. And so in that 2-month time span, we ate out a lot. We ate out more because we're not being planful, like you said, Mike. And we were just like, well, we got to eat, so let's go grab something. The amount of money, I don't know what the exact, I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but I remember looking at our budget and being like, what the heck happened? Like at least $150 extra that we spent just eating out for 1 month.
Mhm.
right? So multiply times 12, whatever the heck that number is. That's a lot of money for a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I mean, it adds up quick. It's $10 here, $20 there, but it adds up really quick. If you can just cut back on that a little bit, you're now freeing up your budget to buy more things at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
A couple more points to add to that. So do you guys know what the dude, I'm totally gonna butcher this name. The Plutus Foundation is Plutus.
Nope.
So I guess it's a foundation that provides grant money and resources to foster opportunities for the financial media to create, develop, and administer community-based programs to enhance financial literacy, education, and empowerment. But I found their website in preparation of this talk.
Okay.
And there's a couple of statistics to point out in terms of, having more money for groceries and also eating food out. So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American household, so I looked it up, it's the average American household is about a little bit over 3 people, but you can't really have a fraction of a person. So 3 people
Right.
spent about $3,500 on dining out in 2018, and that was per year, which equated to about $300 a month. In contrast to that, the average weekly cost of groceries in 2022 was about $200 per week.
Holy.
So that were a couple of points I wanted to bring in because we were talking about it. And then another point I wanted to add about shopping in a grocery store specifically. Most stores will keep all of their whole food and like higher quality produce on the perimeter of the store. It's only when you have to weave through the different aisles where you get into like all the stuff that could lead to impulse buying or things that look good but are really not good for you. So even if you don't have a list and you haven't thought about it, if you stick to the outside of the store and limit the amount of times you go up and down the aisles, that will set you up for better success as well.
For sure. Those are really cool stats, Eric. I didn't know the 200 per week versus the 300 a month, but I fully believe it. And I think it comes back to planning. And I actually have to head out in a few minutes, so I want to make sure that I say the overarching thing that I had thought of before. But before I do that, this is another overarching theme, but planning comes up or has come up multiple times within what we've been talking about. And I think if we were to look at that, the people who are spending $200 a week on their groceries, did they have a grocery list? Was it planful? Was that $200 what they needed to spend, or could they have spent $125, $135, whatever, if they planned better? And if the case was, hey, wait, I needed to spend $200 because I have a family of 3 or 4, and like they eat a lot. I have 3 Erics in my house or whatever.
That'll make you go bankrupt real quick.
Then cool. Then let's plan, and maybe eating out more frequently is more cost effective for you. But you have to have a plan in order to know that, right? And so I'm not one for us, and you guys going to the grocery store probably is more cost effective right now. But for other people, eating out may very well be more cost effective. It's just having the plan and doing the behind the scenes work to know what is more cost effective. And that connects to my other overarching theme of, Eric, I like the fact that you looked into that website, because at the end of the day, yes, we need the education on the health and fitness side to know what options are available, but the financial literacy is so important, so critical, because stuff that we say is too expensive or stuff that we are splurging on could just be due to the fact that we're not budgeting or not managing our money properly, right? And so, like, I did quick math. If you make $30,000 a year, I fully believe that you can live a healthy lifestyle for sure. And there might be a lower number than that, but $30,000 a year within the US, is considered like low income, right? And yeah, around the world, it's probably one of the top 1 or 2% probably if we look at income around the world. But within the U.S., it's considered low income. It's about $15 an hour working full time. If you work 40 hours a week, $15 an hour, you'd make about $30,000 a year. You take that's $2,500 a month. You take rent, which depending on where you live, I don't know, we'll say this is for a single person, right? So I'm not talking family, but you say $1,000 for rent. I don't know. And then we take the groceries, we take the gas, you take eating out every once in a while. Like you would still have money left over out of that 2,500, I believe, to be able to spend on whatever you wanted and still live a healthy lifestyle, right? As long as you were budgeting appropriately. And that's $15 an hour, which you could go and make at Target right now, right? Like going in and doing that pretty straightforward. So for a single person, and like I said, there are many caveats to this, and I have a ton of empathy and a huge heart for people who are like, these single moms with 2 kids who have to work full time and also try and take care of their kids. And it's a completely different circumstance. And we need the resources that we have and more resources in order to help take care of them and provide them with help. But we just got to make sure we're managing our money properly, because that's just it can become another excuse. Oh, I just don't have the money. It's like, no, your money's sitting right in front of you with that, Starbucks drink that you're drinking right now, and that you drink every single day. You're just not utilizing the money that you have wisely. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I'm also. Oh, I was thinking like that is a good point that you made, that maybe if you planned it out right, eating out could potentially be more financially like could be better financially for a particular person. Like it sounds like it would make sense, but the more I think about it, I don't really know if that's true. Because like let's say you go to McDonald's and you buy off the dollar menu. Let's say you spend
That
like,
still exist?
huh?
That still exist? I know hash browns are over $2 now.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't know. The
so
$2.
maybe it doesn't, but like McDonald's is probably like, would you guys agree that McDonald's is like probably one of the most low cost foods you could get, like in terms of getting
Yeah.
food out? So let's say let's say you just spend $5. Or let's say
$5 is one sandwich now in
okay,
McDonald's.
so what do you think like an average cost of one meal at McDonald's would be?
15.
One meal.
Yeah.
Okay, so if one meal is $15, but I could go to the store and buy ground beef for $2.50 a pound. But you kind of laugh, but think about it.
I'm just laughing because you brought up ground beef again as an example.
It's the most it's the most elite protein source in my opinion. Ground
Elite.
beef, red meat for sure. But think about that. Like if I could go, let's even round it up. Let's say $4 a pound, right?
Yeah.
If you could buy ground beef at $4 a pound, that's 3 pounds of ground beef. And let's say one serving is 4 ounces, and there's 16 ounces in a pound. That's 4 servings times 3. That's 12 servings. That's 12 different meals that you can have a full protein source for the same amount of money that you bought one meal out.
Right. No,
So
I completely agree. And I think that especially as prices continue to go up, it's going to be even harder to make that an actual reality, eating out for less than what you buy groceries with. And that $15 McDonald's meal, we haven't even talked about the health aspect of the meal, right? Like $15 McDonald's meal, you're probably not eating real meat, one. But then you're not getting the nutrients that you would like to from that. Whereas the $15 that you spend on the ground beef, you can combine that with some frozen vegetables for $1.
like probably $1, $2.50 maybe.
Right. And be good to go. I think that once again, that comes down to planning, right? And honestly, both the financial and the health and fitness piece come down to planning, because at the end of the day, you have to cook that ground beef. you have to prepare the meal, right?
Real quick, that's another reason why I think ground beef is so elite, because literally takes me like probably 4 minutes to cook ground beef. I turn the pan on high, you throw the ground beef in there, and you chop it up. It literally takes 4 minutes. The
I need,
cleanup, the cook, and everything is done in under 10 minutes. It's
we need,
literally the easiest.
you need to do a video on this, dude.
Yeah,
'Cause
Good. I could.
but
Be like,
yeah,
this guy's gonna get heart failure.
right? No, that 4 minutes is something that, just the way our American and human minds are preset. It's like, oh, well, I'll just go through the drive-through, and that'll be 4 minutes too, right? And so there's a level of planning that is definitely needed, and most people, if they didn't do what you're doing and take the 4 to 10 minutes to make that ground beef, they're just not going to eat. And it's like probably weird for us because we eat a lot. But I've worked with and seen multiple people who are like, yeah, I didn't have everything prepped, and I didn't feel like or didn't have the money to go out and buy food, so I just didn't eat. And was I happy? A little bit, but my body's just kind of used to it. And that's how under eating is perpetuated. And they eat throughout the day at some point, but they're not getting enough of the nutrients because of instances like that. So yeah, I mean, it's can't stress it enough. The planning is critical, and these topics and these situations are super sensitive, and they're very real. But if we plan, there's definitely a way to feed the world. I think there's a way to end hunger, but that's a whole different conversation.
Okay, can I run through 5 more points, and then you guys can comment on whatever you need or whatever you want to, because I know Craig has to get out of here soon.
Yeah, I got like 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll spitball all these ideas at once, and then I'll let you guys comment on them as you will. So my next point is, does brand really matter? So you have the name brands and you have the store brands, and the store brands are a lot cheaper. Doesn't necessarily mean that, Kroger's tomato sauce is the exact same as this brand name of tomato sauce. So check the ingredients list. You don't need to know what every single little thing is, but you can just compare and see, okay, are the ingredients roughly the same? My next point is, consider the idea of starting a garden in the warmer months. So my boss started a zucchini, like he planted a couple zucchini seeds or whatever. And the dude was bringing in like 10 zucchinis a day for the company because he had so many zucchinis. He's like, I don't know what to do with all these zucchinis. Similarly, Dana started one, and I would literally just go out there. All you got to do once it's all set up and everything, all you literally got to do is just water it every single morning. If it's in a pot like ours are, they're kind of hanging off the ledge. You water it maybe twice because you have to water them more if they're not in the ground. And then I would just, pick some lettuce and just eat it right there. So that's my
What?
Yeah. Third thing. This is a point that was touched on earlier. You don't need X. So let's replace X with steak. You can buy chicken instead. Let's say you want red meat, then go with ground beef, or like a pork shoulder or something. My next point, if you see a deal, take advantage of it. So let's say there's a deal on chicken, and chicken is 80 cents a pound instead of $1.99 a pound, or instead of 99 cents a pound, depending on what part of the country you're in. Then buy a bunch of chicken and throw the rest in the freezer. It'll last a really long time. Another point I have is, if you are a low income family or individual, look at programs like a food bank or something in your area. Obviously, there has to be some sort of humility that comes along with that to say like, hey, I need help. I can't do it on my own. But if you need help that bad, why would you turn down the help? You know what I mean? Like, you're not a nuisance. Those programs are established for a reason. And more than that, they're established for somebody like you. They want to help you. So let them help you. And then the last thing I have is a question. which is, what do we think? And we might not even get to this question, but I still want to throw it out there. What do we think about those prepackaged meals or ingredients that have popped up over the last couple of years that are marketed as kind of like healthy alternatives? Like, oh, you don't need to go to the grocery store. You don't need to plan or think about it. We'll send all the ingredients, or we'll send all the meals to your house. Is that actually a cost-effective option, or is it actually more expensive, but you're paying for convenience? I don't know. So that's why I wrote down the question. Okay. Well, let's see what you guys want to respond to. That was a lot.
I think, to my point about buying food out, I still think would be less expensive to stick to grocery buying. So I think like they're great for people in terms of convenience. They don't have to go shop on their own. They don't have to look at what ingredients they need. They get the meal, they get the recipe, they get all of that. But it's going to be more expensive than doing that on your own by just going to the store.
Yeah. To address the last question, there was a lot of stuff in there though, before I go into that. So I really like the deal idea. That was really good. Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff in there. But to address the last one, I think it falls in the middle of eating out and shopping for groceries. So if we're saying that eating out is the most expensive, I think that those meal prep services, so let's call them that, will be in the middle, and then groceries would probably be the least expensive, because I've actually looked into a couple for clients, and some of them you can get meals for like a set of 24 meals or something for like $6 a meal, right? Which, if the average meal at McDonald's is 15, and it's definitely higher quality than the $15 meal you'll get at McDonald's. So $6 meal times 24, whatever that is, I don't know.
That's pretty good. That's pretty freaking good.
Yeah. And now I don't know if that was a special that they were doing for that time of year or what it was. So, and they all aren't like that. I know some of them go up to 9, some of them are up to 12. So that's why I said it falls somewhere in the middle. But if you have, one, the money, and two, you're just not going to grocery shop and prep food, I think go with the meal prep service. I'd rather you be eating than not eating. I feel like the biggest thing, I've mentioned under eating multiple times. That's just because there's so many people that are, the biggest thing that I do most of the time when I start working with someone is make them eat more food because they're under eating, or make them get some sort of nutrients in a larger quantity, whether it's protein or water or whatever. Not that water's a nutrient, but so like I said, would rather you be eating than not eating. So if you can have the money to get these meal prep services and just throw them in your fridge or throw them in your freezer, pull them out, throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes and then eat, rather than having to even do the mental workout of thinking about what you're going to eat. If that helps you to stay on track, please, by all means, That's my thought process. But I really like those questions. I really like this conversation. There's Christmas music being played upstairs from what I can hear. So I'm going to run up there and see what's going down. But is there anything that are you guys going to stay on the call? Or actually, I'm the host. So I think if I end it, it ends. Unfortunately.
Any last remarks?
Any what?
Last remarks?
Yes, I think there's still a lot in this conversation that we probably didn't get to.
So much.
So I think we should revisit this in our next talk and talk a little bit more about like maybe creating like an actual, like you said, planning was a big part of it. So creating an actual plan that people could follow.
Yeah.
And then I also think we should bring out our first guest, being my roommate.
Hey, okay.
He is like you mentioned the reason I thought about this is because Mike, you were talking about if you see a deal, take it, and I started laughing because I instantly thought of my roommate. He is like the deal king. We were walking through the store one day. I think it was like Kroger, we were at Walmart, and he looks at this like gallon of milk. It was like $2.19. He goes, "Dude, I could get it for $2.13 at Kroger. I'm just gonna wait till tomorrow." No, that's like an extreme example, but
Mm.
he would have some good ideas for this specific topic that
Yeah,
we're
I'm up for it. Good with it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm still a guest on all of these episodes, but yeah, I'm definitely down for both.
This has progressed a lot, Eric, from our phone call that was, very impromptu at times. Like, hey, what do you want to talk about? And now we're getting guest stars on here. So
That's right. We're blowing up, baby. The fit folk.
the fit folk. All right, we're still working on the title, but Mike, and you were most definitely not a guest star. You are the tried and true. You're part of the original crew. So.
Thank you. It's too kind. I appreciate it.
But yeah, I like that a lot. Sticking with the finance aspects and balling on a budget. And I think in a future conversation, whether it's the one after or another one in the future, relationships. So I feel like there's a lot that we could have dove into on that end, and it's more of not necessarily directly, nutrition or training or anything like that, but we all are in agreement that it is, if not the biggest, then one of the biggest impacts to our health.
Yep.
So I think we should dive into that a little more.
Sweet. Sounds like a plan.
Let's do it. Let's plan for. I will look at my calendar. I'm sorry, it's the holidays, so I have a bunch of things going on right now.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
So let's plan for potentially a time after the holidays, but I'll look and see what would be best.
Okay.
All right,
Sounds
cool.
good.
All right, guys. Sounds good. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hope Dana feels better. Eric,
Same.
the Bengals won?
Don't know.
Well, I hope they won. All right. See you guys.
All
Yeah.
right. Peace, fellas.